Price of Fear. Brought to you by Vincent Price.
I expect some of you may know of my interest in and love of painting. My wife calls it a passion. Indeed, I have very fond memories of my early years in London when, as a student of art history, I shared a flat in Baker Street with... That's another story. I'll tell you about it sometime. Actually, I paint a little myself, but primarily my interest has always been in buying paintings, some for my personal pleasure, but even more for galleries. Sometimes I've traveled across a continent from one end to the other in pursuit of a painting. In the early days, especially, half the excitement lay in the chase and half in the gamble, the backing of one's own judgment. As you may imagine, this passion of mine has led me to some very strange places and into situations one would never have thought possible. There was one such situation, so bizarre, so frightening, so disastrous as to be almost unbelievable. Oddly enough, I was reminded of it only last week when I was driving through Winchester, for it was here, 20 years ago, that I unwittingly triggered off an awful chain of events. I shall call my story Lot 132. It was a cold day, I remember, and probably as much to keep warm as anything else, I'd strolled into a small auction room just off of the High Street. The auction was about halfway through.
Lot 132. A portrait of a man, early 19th century, English school, artist unknown.
I moved forward to take a closer look. The portrait was of a man in a crimson riding jacket. He looked about 45, with black hair, a large, bony face, and small, closely set eyes. Now, at that time, I had an interest in a modest gallery in London, and although this was clearly a painting of some quality, I felt no desire to buy it. Besides, there was something oddly unnerving about that face, particularly the eye.
What am I bid?
My gaze continued to be drawn to the portrait. It was an uncomfortable sensation.
£15? £15. 18? 18?
And there I was, against my will, bidding for Lot 132, for an unknown man in a riding jacket.
£25. 25.
The portrait was mine. But I didn't have my usual elation about the purchase. I decided it must be my own illogical hypersensitivity to the face that was at fault. When I got back to London, I put the painting in a small anteroom of the gallery and forgot all about it, until a few days later, when an old acquaintance, Michael Emsley, called on me. Oh, Michael, it's so good to see you.
And what a surprise to find you here. Why aren't you in New York?
Oh, that's next month.
I can never keep up with you.
How are the children?
Marvelous.
Simon away at school yet?
No. At the last minute, we decided against it.
Oh, why was that?
It's very simple, really. Neither Marion nor I wanted some frosty matron to have the rest of his childhood.
Right. You know, as a foreigner, I've never understood why the English take the trouble to have children, only to banish them for 8 months of the year to some Bastille of learning.
Well, Marion's always been opposed to the idea.
How is that beautiful wife of yours?
Beautiful? Actually, Marion's the reason I'm here. She has a birthday soon.
And you'd like to buy her a painting?
That was the idea. But something modest, of course.
Oh, yes, of course. Now, why don't we have a conducted tour? We walked through and talked about the paintings that interested Michael. Suddenly he stopped and said,
"That portrait over there."
Yeah?
I don't know. It seems to draw me to it. I must say I don't particularly like the chap's face, but I feel compelled to look at him.
I'd noticed that. throughout the conversation of the past hour, no matter where Michael had been standing in the gallery, he turned round time and again to stare at the face.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean. I bought it in Winchester last week.
Winchester?
Mm-hmm.
That's Marion's hometown.
Well, then perhaps he's an ancestor.
Vincent, what a good idea.
Sorry, I'm not with you.
Well, she's often said she'd like a few family portraits to sport on the walls.
I see what you mean. But supposing she doesn't like him?
Yeah, that's the point.
Look here, why don't you take him on Apro?
Would you mind?
Not at all. I've known you long enough. And so, after we'd exchanged a transaction slip, Michael Emsley took the portrait, promising to give me Marion's answer in a couple of weeks. I must admit, I wasn't sorry to see it go. One evening, about 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my study at home, browsing through a recently acquired folio of early 19th century drawings and engravings. I was delighted when halfway through I turned up an engraving based on that very portrait. What was more, I found out it had been painted by one Jacob Robertson in 1825. He was a painter just now being rediscovered, and the sitter was identified as Nathaniel Jeremiah Blackwell, 1782 to 1830, cloth merchant. The name rang a bell, but that was all. I was about to telephone Michael the news of my discovery when I noticed the time. It was almost 10:30. Well, I don't know about you, but I dislike being disturbed by the telephone after 10, so I decided to leave the call until morning. So the next day I called the Emsley household.
Yes?
Michael?
No, sir.
Oh, could I speak to Marion, Mrs. Emsley?
I'm afraid not. Would you mind telling me who you are, sir?
I didn't recognize the voice, but, well, very briefly I explained who I was and about the whole portrait business.
You say you're a friend, Mr. Price.
Yes.
How long have you known them, sir?
Oh, about 7 or 8 years. Why? Who are you?
Chief Inspector Lowther, sir. Murder Squad.
Within minutes I was in the car, heading for the Berkshire village where the Emsleys lived. All I could hear, all I could think about were the words, Murder Squad. What in God's name had happened? My heart was pounding as I drew up at the house. Chief Inspector Lowther met me at the door.
Come into the sitting room, please, Mr. Price.
All right. Oh, my God, Inspector. This room, it looks as if it had been ravaged by a madman.
Madman's the right word, sir.
Well, the Emsleys, Michael, Marion, where are they?
Mr. Emsley's at headquarters, taken into custody.
Custody? Why?
He gave himself up, Mr. Price.
What?
And Mrs. Emsley's dead, sir. Murdered.
Murdered? But what about the children? Oh, for pity's sake, Inspector, where are they? Let me take them. Let me look after them.
They're dead too, sir.
At this point, I felt physically sick. My knees seemed about to give way, so I sat down in the only chair left undamaged. As I did so, I noticed lumps and streaks of blood spattering the walls, the curtains, and the carpet. The inspector must have thought I was going to pass out because he poured me a brandy, and we went outside into the fresh air. Gradually, he told me the details.
It happened about 10:30 last evening, sir. It seems that Mr. Emsley, for no apparent reason, suddenly went berserk and attacked his wife with a hatchet. Then threw her body into the swimming pool.
But, Inspector, it simply can't be true. Marion, he adored her. The children, what happened to them?
Poison, Mr. Price.
Oh, my God.
Weed killer in their milk. Forensics say they were both dead by 9 o'clock.
Did Michael Emsley do this, too?
I'm afraid so, sir. It's just about the most hideous murder I've ever known.
After that, the inspector questioned me about Michael. Well, not being a really close friend, I couldn't tell him very much, except that he was the gentlest of men and appeared to be completely devoted to his wife and family. There seemed to be no clue to this sudden, unaccountable violence. When I spoke a little later to their old housekeeper, Mrs. Thomas, the poor woman looked deathly white and was clearly distraught.
I keep telling them how kind he was, but I don't think they believe me. There was nothing cruel about Mr. Emsley.
It was you who raised the alarm, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, Mr. Price. I heard this strange sobbing noise, you see. More like an animal in pain.
What time was that, Miss Thomas?
Oh, must have been about midnight, sir, so... Well, I jumped out of bed, and that's when I found him.
Where?
By the swimming pool, sir. And it was too late to stop anything, Mr. Price. He'd already thrown poor Mrs. Emsley's body into...
Yes. But look, did he try to attack you?
Oh, no, sir. Crying like a baby he was. And when he saw me, you see, he told me about the children.
Yes.
My poor little loves. Oh, it's all my fault, Mr. Price. If only I hadn't let him take up their bedtime drink.
Well, didn't he usually?
Oh, no, sir, no. I did that, you see, always. But last night, he insisted.
Insisted? How do you mean?
Well, he fairly snatched the mugs off the tray and told me to get out the way.
Well, that doesn't sound like him.
Oh, no, sir, it wasn't. But, well, he had been a bit funny for about a fortnight.
You mean bad-tempered then?
Yes, yeah, with the children and with Mrs. Emsley, sir.
Oh. Well, perhaps he was worried about his work.
I couldn't say that, but I know Mrs. Emsley was worried about him. The way he'd sit in his study for hours, just brooding. Not himself at all.
And he'd been like this for about 2 weeks.
Just about, sir. Oh, dear, I can't believe it, Mr. Price. I can't believe it.
Before leaving, the inspector reminded me about the portrait. When he saw the transaction slip, suggested that I take the painting back with me to London. It was hanging in Michael's study. For a moment, we looked at it together.
A thoroughly evil-looking so-and-so, isn't he?
Evil. That was it. I didn't know that you could actually smell evil, but you can. That study stank of it. Nathaniel Jeremiah Blackwell seemed to dominate us, and I felt an aura of what I can only call satanic triumph emanating from that canvas. But I tried to put this down to imagination and my own wretched state of mind. As I left the house, the police had started to empty the swimming pool of its red water. It was a sickening sight. Within hours, the portrait was once again in the back room of the gallery, and although privately I decided either to lose it or even destroy it, I said nothing to my partners. I could hardly tell them that I destroyed a painting of quality simply because I had a feeling about it. The next morning I flew to New York on my prearranged business trip, and a month later I found myself in a library in Washington, D.C. Idling away an hour or two, I came across a newly published encyclopedia of criminals and criminology. Flicking through the pages, I found this entry. Nathaniel Jeremiah Blackwell, 1782 to 1830. Hanged in London for the murder of his wife and children. Brutally assaulted wife with hatchet. Throwing body into river. Poison put in children's gruel. Nicknamed Killer Satan. So that was it. Blackwell's evil. It must still be alive. How else could one account for Michael Emsley's behavior? But despite instinct, I couldn't logically dismiss the possibility of coincidence. However, I didn't intend to take any chances. That portrait had to be destroyed. Immediately I cancelled all further engagements, and the next day flew back to London. Can you imagine my horror when on arrival at the gallery I found the portrait had been sold 3 weeks previously? I had to work quickly. The record showed it had been bought by a Peter Smythe living in Haywards Heath. I telephoned and spoke to his wife, telling her that there had been some confusion over the portrait, that my partner was unaware that I'd promised it to another client.
Do you want to buy it back, Mr. Price?
Mrs. Smythe, it would save me a great deal of embarrassment if that were possible.
Well, so far as I'm concerned, by all means. I can't stand it. It gives me the creeps.
What about your husband?
Well, he seems quite fond of it. It's hanging in his study.
I see. Do you think I have any chance of persuading him to part with the painting?
You could come over and try, if you like.
Thank you. This evening?
Yes, but could you make it about 8:30? I'll have got the children to bed by then. We'll have more of a chance to talk.
Yes, I understand completely. 8:30 then. Thank you, Mrs. Smythe. Goodbye. Coincidence? Imagination. I couldn't take the risk. This time I had to back my instinct. I had to get to the Smythe house before the children were put to bed. I arrived at about 8 and left the car parked outside the front gates. As I walked up the long drive, sheer natural curiosity urged me to peer through the window of a small garden shed. Standing on a workbench was a large tin, clearly marked weed killer, poison. I quickened my steps to the house. Approaching the front door, I could now see the gardens which lay at the back. When I saw a large ornamental fish pond, my stomach turned over. Weed killer? Water? Coincidence again? I rang the bell.
Good evening. You must be Mr. Price.
Yes, that's right. I'm sorry I'm a little early.
Oh, that doesn't matter. I haven't quite got the children settled yet, but do come in.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm rather glad you are early.
Oh.
I haven't had a chance to tell him about this portrait business yet, but I'd like to explain about my husband.
Well, is he ill?
Oh, no. No, not physically, but he's become depressed about life in general, so he may give you the wrong impression.
But how do you mean?
Well, he's always been such a happy, easygoing person, no temperament at all, not like me.
And he's changed?
Well, yes, totally. He's moody, he's irrational, and he's never been bad-tempered with me and the children for no reason, but now...
Miss Knight, how long has this been going on?
Oh, about 3 weeks.
3...
I can't understand it. It happened almost overnight.
3 weeks, I see. But does he want to talk about it? I mean, communicate?
Oh, no. No, that's just it. He takes himself off to his study and sits there for hours, alone.
Well, perhaps he's overworked. Maybe he needs a holiday.
Oh, we tried that a week ago.
Was he any better?
Much. But within a few hours of being home, he was just the same. Oh, I'm so worried about him. Do forgive me, Mr. Price, letting my hair down to a complete stranger.
Please, not at all. You've actually been a great help. If there's anything I can do...
Well, as a matter of fact, I hope things may be improving.
Oh?
Yes, just before you arrived, Peter insisted he took the children's bedtime drink to them. He almost threw me out of the kitchen.
Mrs. Smythe, where is he now?
He's in the kitchen making it.
The kitchen door opened and Peter Smythe walked out, carrying a tray. There were 2 mugs of milk on it. I knew that I had to stop him, so I edged to the foot of the stairs. Quickly, I thought, if I held out my hand as if to shake his, I could easily send the tray flying onto the floor.
Darling, This is Mr. Price. He wants
Get
to...
out of my way.
How do you do, Mr. Smythe?
Oh, stupid bloody
Oh,
fool.
I'm so sorry. Oh, what must you think of me? Please.
Please, it was an
Damn
accident.
you, give me. May I help clear up the mess?
No, really, I'll do it.
So sorry, Mrs. Smythe. Look, I know this is hardly the time, but I really must talk to your husband about that portrait.
Yes, of course.
Where did he go?
Into the study. There's the portrait's there, too.
Thank you. We crossed the hall to the study. The door was closed.
Darling? Darling? Someone to see you. Peter?
Peter Smythe was sitting at the desk, his back towards us, staring up at the portrait of Nathaniel Blackwell. In a second, I recognized the same smell of evil in that room, and I suddenly felt afraid.
Peter? Do you feel all right?
He sprang out of his chair and turned to face us. In his hand, he held a small hatchet.
Peter, what is...
He moved swiftly, like an animal, around the desk.
You bitch. You whore. I hate you.
Peter! What's the matter with
Quickly,
you?
I moved between him and the desk, and standing behind him, grasped both his wrists.
Whore. I hate you.
Peter, please!
He struggled with me, but I clung on. Finally, I managed to wrench the hatchet out of his grasp. As I swung round, my eyes met those of Nathaniel Jeremiah Blackwell, and in a split second I knew either that portrait must be destroyed or we should be. His evil was still alive, dominating, commanding. Then Peter Smythe, with a lunatic strength, threw himself at me. I shouted to his wife, "Hold him! Hold him! Keep him back! It's the portrait! I must destroy that portrait! Hold him!" Hold on! You fool! Leave that portrait alone!
Peter, stop it!
Gripped his hands around her neck. Quickly, I struck the portrait. With the first blow, Peter Smythe released his wife, cried out in pain, and reeled around the room. I struck at Blackwell's eyes, his nose, his mouth, his chest. I felt possessed, overwhelmed by anger and hate. But Smythe, his strength ebbing away with each blow, began to whimper like an animal. Finally, the picture cord gave way, and Nathaniel Jeremiah Blackwell slid to the floor.
Peter! He's dead!
No, Mrs. Smythe, he's not dead. Just wait a moment. Be patient.
No, we must get a doctor quickly,
No,
please.
there's no need for that. Your husband has simply been released.
Peter. Oh, thank God.
Darling, what happened?
You...
Nothing happened, Mr. Smythe.
Will he remember, do you think?
Only as one remembers a nightmare. At first, a few details will remain clear. And then gradually, in time, all will be forgotten. And by you too, Mrs. Smythe.
I haven't hurt you, have I, darling?
No, my love. You haven't. Not you.
What strange powers a painting can have. Sometimes good, but in the case of Nathaniel Jeremiah Blackwell, evil. Hours later, after I'd burned what remained of the canvas, I told the Smythes the whole story. There was one thing I didn't tell them, however, but I'll tell you. When the portrait crashed to the ground and Peter Smythe lay exhausted in his wife's arms, I noticed the vermilion paint of Blackwell's hunting jacket had come off the canvas and lined the knife edge of the hatchet. That was understandable, but why had so much appeared on my hands and streaked my wrists? Old paint should flake or powder. But this was wet, very wet. When I washed my hands a few moments later, I knew why. It wasn't paint. It was blood. Do any of you listening at home have portraits hanging on your walls? Are they of unknown sitters? Be careful how you look at them. You never know. Goodbye.
That was Vincent Price bringing you The Price of Fear, with Elizabeth Morgan, Douglas Blackwell, and Alexander John. This story, Lot 132, was first recounted and dramatized by Elizabeth Morgan and produced by John Dias.
Wheaties presents Night Beat. On stage tonight from Hollywood, Night Beat, another in the Wheaties' big parade of exciting half-hour presentations. Night Beat.
Hi, this is Randy Stone. I cover the Night Beat for the Chicago Star. Stories start in many different ways. This one began in the darkness of the human mind and ended in raging flame.
Night Beat, starring Frank Lovejoy as Randy Stone.
There's been a lot of talk about Wheaties and champions. But you know, really, anybody can eat Wheaties. Of course, a lot of champions do. But so do a lot of other people, millions of them. Tomorrow morning, they'll shake the Wheaties into the bowl, pour on the milk, put on the fruit, and enjoy themselves. These millions of happy people have made Wheaties Americans' favorite whole wheat flakes. So even though they're called Breakfast of Champions, we want you to feel perfectly free to get Wheaties at the grocery tomorrow. 2 packages if you wish. They go pretty fast. Crisp, you know. A kind of nut-like taste to them. Wheaties. Have some.
Ever look at people as you pass them on the street and wonder what their lives are like? Where they've been, where they're going, and what they'll do when they get there? Me, I'm a sucker for the guy who wears his heart on his sleeve with just the scars showing. Or a pair of eyes that look out of a soul eaten away by loneliness. The old lady eating her dinner alone in a booth for 4. The lone drinker in a plushy bar who toasts his reflections in the mirror and wishes that he was too drunk to see it. Sometimes the busiest street in the city can be the lonesomest spot in the world. And tonight it had seemed like that as I drove through the dark city. I was well into the warehouse district when I saw a flash. It was like an explosion, only there was no noise, no sound, just this flash and then flames. It was a 3-story warehouse, the old wooden type, and the flames worked fast. I started past to find a box to turn on the alarm when I saw a man, and he was running into the fire. I stopped the car and took off after him. The only light in the building was from the fire, and the man was nowhere in sight. Hey, you! Here I was making like a regular stout-hearted Frank Merriwell. First one to a fire and no one to save. And then I heard him.
Tony! Tony!
I followed the sound of his voice. He was standing at the foot of some wooden steps, yelling his head off.
Tony! Hey, Tony!
Hey, you!
Hey, what are you doing?
Come on, Pop.
Huh?
Let's watch it from outside.
Let go.
Now, come on, now, come on.
Leave me alone. Let go of me.
Hey, come back here, you fool!
Go away. Leave me.
Papa, you hurt?
My leg. I hit him when I fell.
Well, let's see if you can walk.
I can walk if you'll help me. I'll go with you, mister.
Yes, I figured you would. I half carried, half dragged the old man. The smoke was so strong that my lungs ached. I felt lightheaded. Outside, a crowd had gathered. A line of policemen were keeping them back out of the firemen's way. One cop came over to us.
Hey, you guys, you work here?
He came in after me.
Who are you?
I'm Strongheart the second, only don't let it get around.
Oh, hiya, Randy.
All right.
The old man's leg hurt?
Isn't broken, it's just banged up a bit.
You guys stay put. I'll get the ambulance boys over here.
Okay, we'll be here.
I'm not saying.
Now, you stay where you are.
I gotta get going.
What's the rush, Pop? Any good reason why you shouldn't wait around?
You mean did I have anything to do with the fire?
Well, did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't have anything to do with it.
Okay, nobody's accusing you. What's it all about? Why did you run in there after the fire started?
That's my business.
Well, you're going to have to answer questions. You might as well start with me.
Oh, get me out of here, mister. Get me home, and maybe I will.
I led him through the crowd and to my car. I followed his directions through the dark streets. He seemed to be looking for something. He leaned forward, watching in the lights of the car, turned his head to peer at everyone we passed. And all the time he was silent. Finally, I broke the ice. Maybe I'd better know who you are, huh?
Hey, I'm Ben Graham.
Mm-hmm. You said you were going to talk.
Yeah, it's my son, Tony.
Were you looking for him in the fire?
Tony went there earlier. When I saw the fire start, I thought he might still be in there.
And you ran in to find him?
Tony used to work there.
Used to?
Yeah, he was a night watchman there and several other warehouses. You see, he's not like other people. I was afraid they'd see him there.
Oh, like...
Oh, it's not what you think. He's not crazy. Well, he stays inside himself, if you know what I mean. He don't like people. He sleeps in the daytime. He lives at night.
What happens with the jobs? Does he quit?
He was fired. Every time. Fired.
Why?
He thinks it's because of the cane.
Oh, he uses a cane?
Yeah, ever since he was a boy, he's touchy about it. One reason he doesn't like people.
Ben, why do you think he started the fire?
Oh, I didn't say that. I didn't say anything like that.
No, you didn't have to. It shows.
I don't know what to think.
There have been several warehouse fires around here recently.
5, less than a month.
Yeah. Are they the ones where Tony worked?
Some of them, but it's not only that.
Well, what else, Ben? Why are you afraid Tony started those fires?
3 out of 5 of them. Man with a cane was seen coming out around the time of the fire, and I gotta find him.
Have you asked him about the fires?
Oh, I've tried to. We don't talk much. Oh, there's my place. It seems like we're strangers. When I mention fires, he slams out of the house.
Well, I'll talk to him then when we find him.
May not talk to you, mister. He's funny about that.
Well, we'll see. I'll go in with you.
No, don't. You wait here. Don't come up there. I'll bring him out to you.
Ben Graham staggered up the short walk to his little shed. What was he hiding? What was he afraid for me to see? I heard him open the door without a key. The light switched on. After a few seconds, switched off, but Graham didn't come out. I waited a few minutes and then made my way to the darkened house. There was no sound from the inside. I called as I felt for the door. Ben! There was no answer. I found the knob. Before I could turn it, the door was yanked open.
I told you to wait. I told you to wait in the car.
Well, I saw the light go out. When you didn't come back, I thought something was wrong.
Come on, there's nothing wrong. Get back into the car. Tony's not here.
We gotta find him, Ben.
I know, before the police do.
But where?
Oh, we'll try some of the warehouses. That's where he hangs out.
Which ones? Are they near here?
Yeah, around.
Well, then why don't we leave the car here and walk?
No. Get in.
What are you hiding, Ben? What do you want to get me away from?
You wanted to find out or not?
All right. Where to?
Block down and block over. Young and Wilson's warehouse.
You seem to know a lot about these warehouses yourself.
I've been working in them most of my life. That is, I used to.
Mm-hmm. This Young and Wilson, is that where the next fire is supposed to take place?
I hope not, mister. I hope not. Slow down. That's it ahead.
The building's dark.
The watchman's inside. Over here.
You do know your way around.
Yeah? What do you want?
Tony here?
Who wants him? Oh, you. Get away from that door. Don't come around here, Graham.
Have you seen Tony?
No, he's not here. Now get moving.
What is all this?
You're a stranger around here. You'd know.
I'd know what?
About Ben. He's a bad luck omen. Anywhere he goes, trouble starts. somebody gets hurt or a fire breaks out. Once a watchman was killed. There's always accidents. It's him.
What kind of superstition is that?
Maybe a superstition to you, but not to us. All the watchmen know. Ask any of them. Now move on.
Well, what's that all about?
It's true what he said.
Oh, coincidence.
Call it any name you like. It happens. I can't help it. It just happens.
That's why you're not working now?
Oh, nobody will hire me. They all know. Sometimes they think of excuses, but mostly they're like him. They run me off.
Well, you could get some other kind of work.
Oh, I've tried, but they ask me where I worked, and when they check, they find out they don't need me. Listen. Stand back. It's Ken.
Tony?
Soon see when he turns that corner.
What are you doing with a gun?
Keep out of the way.
You're not going to...
Don't talk.
That's not a cane. That's a nightstick.
Policeman.
Hey, you! Over there!
You won't find me here.
Hey, wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute.
What's the matter with old Screwball?
With who?
Ben Graham.
Oh, you know him?
Sure. Everyone around here knows him. Rather have a black cat cross my path than Ben.
Why?
Wherever there's trouble, you'll find him. See the fire tonight?
Oh, yes. Why?
I'll bet he was there. Every time there's a fire, someone swears Ben was there. Hey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was it the watchman had said? Somebody gets hurt or a fire breaks out? What about the fires where a man with a cane was always seen and another man who nobody wanted around? Well, why did Ben run when he saw the police? Why was he carrying a gun? I decided I wanted to see the Graham shack again. What was he hiding in that house? What was it he didn't want me to see? The little building was dark when I went up the walk. If either Tony or his father was there, he didn't want anyone to know about it. I knocked once before I turned the knob. I thought I heard a movement in the corner. Ben? Tony? Anybody here? I felt along the wall for a switch. There was a sound like the cry of a cat.
What do you want? Please answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I frightened you. I'm looking for Mr. Graham.
My husband or my son?
Both of them.
What is it? What's happened?
Oh, nothing's happened. I just wanted to see them.
There is something. I know there is.
No, it's nothing, really. Now, why don't you lock the door when I leave so no more bad dreams can come in, huh?
I can't lock the door. I can't move out of this bed.
Oh, you're paralyzed. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have laughed.
It's all right. I like to hear it. No one laughs here. Won't you sit down?
No, I can't stay. I've got to find Ben or Tony.
What have they done, mister?
Oh, they haven't done anything.
You're just like them. They won't tell me anything either. I lie here alone in the dark. Can't move. No one will tell me anything.
Well, I just wanted to give them a message.
No, you didn't. Don't try to fool me. Nobody wants them. Either of them.
I'm sorry I disturbed you, Mrs. Graham. Is there anything that I can do for you?
You can talk to me. Just talk to me. They don't talk, Ben and Tony. They're dark men, both of them.
Why do you say no one wants them? Has there been trouble?
There's always been trouble. What are they into now?
Oh, I better go find them.
Is it the fires?
You know?
I've guessed. It is. It is the fires.
Now, don't upset yourself. Ben and Tony are all right.
They won't tell me. They won't talk about fire. I ask them and they won't answer. I know.
I tell you, they're all right. I just talked to your husband, to Ben. I thought he came here.
They don't come here. All these years I've laid here alone. They don't come here but to sleep and to eat.
Well, Ben was here a little while ago.
He turned off the light and waited in the dark. What did he want? What was he waiting for?
We were looking for Tony.
What has he done? I've got a right to know. I'm his mother.
Well, Ben thinks that Tony started the fires.
Tony? Tony started the fires. He did. He did. Tony started the fire.
General Mills is bringing you Night Beat, starring Frank Lovejoy as Randy Stone.
This is for people over 21. All you kids go get ready for bed or something, will you? No. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, why should the children have a corner on the Wheaties? Now, if they don't at your house, good. Because honest now, who works any harder than you? You need whole wheat, too. Whole wheat with the sun in it. Sure good. Whole wheat nourishment. And Wheaties are about the nicest, flakiest, most delectable way of getting whole wheat nourishment that you ever saw. Now, you notice I don't call Wheaties breakfast food. Just breakfast food? Oh, never. Lunch food, Sunday night supper food, snack food for the off times like just before bed. Sure, you can have Wheaties any old time and get the sunny whole wheat just the same. Sugar them, cream them, strawberry them if you want to. Eat them any way you like them. But don't feel that just because you've gotten old enough to vote, you have to give up Wheaties. They're still America's favorite whole wheat flakes, just like they were when you were wearing pigtails and short pants. Okay, the kids can listen again now. That's Wheaties you're going to get tomorrow. Remember?
And now back to Night Beat and Randy Stone.
Yes, it was adding up, but it wasn't making sense. First, I drag a man out of a fire, a man who's carrying a gun. And now a frightened, paralyzed woman who wanted someone to listen. I could feel that tingling on the back of my neck as Martha Graham talked. She was terrified at the mention of fire. I sat in one of the chairs beside her bed and tried to calm her fear. She wanted to talk, and I couldn't stop her.
Tony started the fire. It burned our house. That's how I got like this. That's why Tony uses a cane. He was a little boy then. Tony loved matches. He liked to watch them burn.
Well, don't think about it now.
I think about it all the time. Sometimes I dream about it. Everything burning all around me, my clothes on fire, and Tony in the corner screaming. I can see it over and over.
Isn't it better if you don't talk about it, Mrs. Graham?
Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. That's all I hear. I want to talk. It's better than lying here alone, not able to move.
Now, don't excite yourself. Why don't you get some sleep?
All right. If you'll stay, I'll talk about something else.
You have any idea where Tony is?
In one of the warehouses. That's where he always is.
Well, I'd like to see him. Do you know which one?
What time is it?
Well, let me see. It's a little after 2. Why?
Then he's at the Holland warehouse, about 3 blocks from here. It's where he goes at 2.
I don't understand. You mean he goes to different warehouses at certain times?
Yeah, Tony makes a few dollars. The watchmen help him out. But he never talks to me.
Well, it's hard for all of us to talk sometimes. You say Tony will be at the Holland warehouse at 2?
Yeah. Tony tells me where he'll be. I don't worry if I know.
And Ben, will he be there too?
If he's looking for Tony, he will.
Oh, thank you. I must be going.
Will you do something for me, mister, before you go?
Well, sure. What is it?
Laugh for me. I just want to hear you laugh.
Laugh, she says. She hits me between the eyes and tells me to laugh. I stayed with Martha Graham a little longer, promised her I'd come back, and I set out to find the Holland warehouse. It was larger than the other buildings around it and stronger. It was made of cement and steel, and it towered above its wooden neighbors by several stories. I tried the front door, no luck. I rang the bell, I waited. No one came. I tried beating on the door. That didn't do any good either. I started to turn away, and then...
What do you want?
Who are you?
I'm the watchman here.
I thought the watchman stayed inside.
I just stepped around the corner for 2 o'clock coffee.
Oh?
Don't worry, the place is guarded. There's a fellow inside.
Who, Tony Graham?
Yeah. You know him?
Well, in a way. Is his father with him?
That jinx. I wouldn't let him near the place.
Oh, you too, huh? Well, let's go in. I want to talk to Tony.
About what?
I'll tell him.
Come on.
Where's your light?
Got a flash here. Tony! 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 That's funny.
Well, it's a big building. He's probably on one of the other floors.
Shouldn't be. We punch a time clock here. This is the time we're supposed to check in on this floor.
Now, where is the clock?
Over by the stairs. Lights are there, too. It's not like Tony not to be here.
You mean you've left here before?
Sure, he helps a lot of the guards. Kind of relieves them like. We all pay him a little. And that way he can have a job and his old man don't know it. Better with these lights.
Well, there's your light and there's your clock, but no Tony.
Can't understand it. Let's try upstairs. We'll take this freight elevator.
Are you in all the aisles here at least once during the night?
It'd be pretty hard to do with all those rows of boxes and crates. Hey, you don't think something's happened to him, do you?
I hope not.
I don't think he's up here. I don't know where he is. Listen.
Tony and Ben, behind those boxes, they're coming this
I tell you,
way.
I didn't have anything to do with these fires.
Oh, you'd say that. I knew you'd say that.
But I didn't. Why would I start these fires?
Because you're a firebug, that's why.
I'm not. You've told me that all my life, but I'm not.
Ben,
Who's that?
what are you doing with that gun?
Stone, you followed me.
What are you doing up here, Tony?
I came up here to punch the clock. He followed me up. He's going to kill me.
This is the only way.
There's always trouble where he is. I told you.
Shut up. It's not my fault, everything that happens. It's not my fault about my family either. Look at us. Me. Nobody give me a job, and Martha.
I know, Ben. I saw her.
You know all about us, don't you? Oh, but Tony. Well, there he is. A firebug.
What's that?
Hey, fire! The building's on fire! You brought it, Ben Graham. I told you not to come here. I'm getting out.
Another fire, Tony.
I didn't start it. I've been up here with you.
I know you started it just like the others.
I didn't start them. Oh, listen to me, Pa. I didn't do it.
You have no proof he started them.
How many times did I stop you when you were a kid? You always liked to play with the fire and watch things burn.
All kids do. That doesn't prove I...
In our house, you sat there on fire, too. Everything we had went up. We've never had anything since.
Haven't I been punished for that fire? Look at me, haven't I?
Yeah, but not for the others. You'll never do it again, never.
Put that gun down, Ben. You can't do that. That's murder.
He's got to be stopped. It's got to be.
But not that way. What if he didn't do it? What if you're wrong?
I can't be wrong. I know him.
You don't know him at all. You don't even know what he's been doing at night.
Oh, yes, I do. He goes from one warehouse to another. I've been following him. He's been in every one of those buildings just before they burned.
Every one of them?
You see, even you were beginning to believe.
The fire bell has stopped.
That means the watchman's turned in the alarm. It's automatic. The fire truck should be here soon.
The sooner the better. Look at the smoke has started to seep in. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
You're not getting out of here, Tony. I can't let you.
Listen, you can't do it, Ben. It's like a lynching. You can't be the judge and executioner, too.
I can't take any more. Martha, the way she is, and Tony like this. You know what they'll do to him. And a silence. I couldn't stand that. It's better this way.
Smoke, will you put that gun away, Ben?
Tony, I don't want to do it, but it's the only way.
There's one other way.
Stay away from me, Stone. I don't want to hurt you. Stay away.
I'm not much of a target with the smoke.
Stay away.
The gun. Give me the gun. Give it to me. Grab the gun, Tony.
I got it.
All right, now, come on. We're getting out of here.
Let it in now.
Come on.
Let go my arm.
I said come on. Tony, show us the way out.
If I can, Mr. Stone. If I can.
The room was full of smoke, and the concrete floor was warm from the fire below. We worked our way to the elevator, but from the smoke and sparks growing up the shaft like a giant smokestack, we knew it was useless.
The stairway. Over here.
Ben had stopped struggling. He wanted to live, too. We followed Tony by the sound of his cane. He stopped before he reached the steps. Flames outlined the square of the stairwell.
Tony, take us to the fire escape. Where is it?
The other side. Down this way.
Ben was coughing and gasping for breath. Once he stumbled and nearly fell. For a second time in one night, I was helping him out of a fire. Through the smoke, we saw the light of the red exit sign. We leaned against the door and we found it open. A policeman was on the landing.
I was coming after you. Watchman said you were here.
He helped us down to the street and away from the building.
You just took another one out. Over here, the firebug.
The firebug? Oh, no.
Ma, you're walking.
Oh, no.
Martha, it can't be.
Who is she?
The old man's wife.
But she can't walk. She's paralyzed.
What's it all about, Martha?
My men and those warehouses. They acted like I was already dead.
She was hurt in a fire a long time ago.
Oh.
You can walk. Better than me.
Nobody'll care.
Oh, sure we do, Ma, sure.
Did you start those fires?
Yes, I started them. That's what they did to me. And after I was hurt, they left me alone. They let me lie there alone. First I got so I could talk, but you wouldn't talk to me.
I couldn't, Ma. Seeing you there like that and knowing it was my fault.
Nobody came in. All those years, nobody.
You can walk.
Then I got so I could walk.
When was that, Martha?
About a year ago. First I thought I'd go out and see people, but I don't know anybody now.
Why didn't you tell us?
I was going to surprise you, Ben, but you didn't want me. You wouldn't stay around.
Don't you see it was because it hurt us to see you like that?
Well, when you look at me, you'd look away. So at night I'd follow you. You didn't even look around. Then I got to understand. You didn't want me. It was the warehouses you wanted. I was jealous of those warehouses, just like they were people, and I hated them.
Martha, no. Oh, no.
So one night I watched you both go into one of the buildings, and I was left outside alone, just like I'd been so many years. I wanted to kill it, to destroy it.
Oh, Mom.
And when you came out, I went inside. There were some papers and things in the corner. I started the fire, and then I ran out.
Tony, I thought
then
that
I hid, and I watched, and fire trucks came, and people. I had to laugh. I'd brought all those people. They came because of me.
Yeah. You come with us, Mrs. Graham.
You? Where?
He'll take you to a hospital. There'll be people there.
People? People? Will they talk to me? Will they talk to me?
Why, sure they'll talk to you, Martha. They'll talk to you. Some story, huh? Brother, sometimes the night is even deeper than we think. A moral, too? Well, it seems to me it sticks out all over the place. The Graham's loneliness proved about as deadly as poison. Even more deadly. At least poison kills quickly. But there's an answer to loneliness, and it's so simple it chokes you. Loneliness is a prison that separates you from the world. And you can escape from that prison in only one way. By freeing another. Oh, yes, indeed. None but the lonely heart stone. Copy, boy.
You are listening to Night Beat on the Wheaties Big Parade.
Here's a hooray for the Reader's Digest. This hooray is sent up by the Wheaties people because the Reader's Digest has printed a very smart word or two on breakfast in their May issue. Most people don't eat enough breakfast, reports the Digest. Most people would feel better, look better, work better if they did. The Wheaties people suggest you try Breakfast of Champions as the better part of a better breakfast and see just how true the Reader's Digest article is.
Night Beat, starring Frank Lovejoy, is produced and directed by Warren Lewis and edited by Larry Marcus. Tonight's story was written by Joel Hunt, with music by Frank Worth. Others in tonight's cast were Sarah Selby, Paul McVeigh, Sam Edwards, Junius Matthews, and Frank Gerstle. Listen next week at this same time and every week as Randy Stone searches through the city for the strange stories waiting for him in the darkness.
And this is your Wheaties man, Frank Martin, inviting you to listen also on Wednesday night to Brian Donlevy in Dangerous Assignment on the Wheaties Big Parade. See you then.
Going to bake a pie sometime soon? Make it with Crust Quick, the Betty Crocker pie crust mix. You know, it's a tender, flaky crust that's at the bottom of every delicious pie, sure as you use Crust Quick. And so easy.
Just add water to crust quick.
And what pie crust? Tender crust, tasty crust, rich, short, lovely crust, just like Betty Crocker makes. And you can make it.
Just add water to crust quick.
Crust Quick, the Betty Crocker pie crust mix. Night Beat came to you from Hollywood, portions transcribed. Stay tuned for the Treasury Bond Drive Show on NBC.